break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine. I want it my way. Indie Film Nation, you know it's gotta be Indie Film Nation.
Hi, Sue Lawson here with Indie Film Nation. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Yelling Fire in an Empty Theater. We've got the writer, director, editor, Justin Zuckerman. We have Ryan Martin Brown, who's the producer, and Natalie Elizabeth Montoya, the production designer. Come aboard, everybody. Join us. We're going to have a little bit of fun here. Did I slaughter your name, Justin, or did I get it correct?
No, you did it perfectly. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, let's start with you because let's face it, the movie it's your brainchild. You brought this to the big screen despite, or maybe I should say, because of incredible odds. You decided to go kind of the old Spike Lee way, and it's just like, hey, I'm just going to pay for this, and I'm not looking at doing something that's going to be big budget Hollywood. I want to get this story out there and just have people enjoy it. So tell me a little bit about the journey.
Yeah. I mean, that's like exactly it. We, from the start, the movie was almost like an experiment, so to say, where it was to see if we could make a film that was worthwhile with the resources that we had on hand. And, you know, I had seen so many people who wanted to make films who weren't able to do it because they didn't have the money, or, you know, they didn't have certain people or things or equipment attached to it. And, you know, we didn't have those things either, but I had a story that I wanted to tell, and I had a desire to make a movie, and I was very luckily and thankfully surrounded by really talented friends who shared the same kind of desire. So yeah. Oh yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it seems to me that is how many people, many of the names that we know that we firmly associate with Hollywood started. You know, we have Robert Rodriguez. What was it, an 8mm camera? And, you know, he just kind of went out and made that first version of El Mariachi. He did that all himself. In fact, we have a friend who was the person who let him in, you know, after hours to the studio to go ahead and cut his film when he first shot that. So, you know, we've got that. You've got, no, I guess he was doing it on, was it VHS? It was definitely like a camcorder he was shooting stuff on. And then we have, if you go back to the very, very, very early days of Steven Spielberg with his little 8mm home movie camera making things. So, hey, you are following in the footsteps of legends. True legends here.
Well, yeah, thank you. I love being in the same sentence as people like Spielberg and Robert Rodriguez. So
you know what? 5-10 years from now, people are going to be saying, I love being in the same sentence as Justin Zuckerman.
Oh, well, thank you.
They're going to love that. They're going to love that. So you were talking about bringing people together. Let's bring one of your other people in. Ryan Martin Brown, the producer of this. Ryan, how did you get involved in this?
Justin and I have known each other for a long time. We went to film school together at Florida State University, and you know, Justin just came to me one day and he said, "Hey, I think I'm going to make a feature film this fall." I was like, you know, are you sure? And you know, it kind of just snowballed into existence from there.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the decisions that you made when it came to making this film. You did not go ahead and decide, hey, I'm going to bring in one of these magnificent film cameras or digital cameras to shoot on. You really went old school. Do I understand you shot on MiniDV? Is that right?
Yeah, we shot on, we actually had two old camcorders. We had one, and then I found another on eBay for like $40. So I bought a second just so we could, in a sense, it's almost big budget where we get, you know, two cameras at one time, which a lot of shoots don't get to do. But yeah, using the MiniDV was a big part of it because of how accessible and easy to use it was for us. And when I started making films, even I was making them like when I was a lot younger on MiniDV, and so this kind of brought back that sense of like just fun and play, and everyone was always. It just seemed like it just made it an easier and more fun time to shoot on that kind of camera.
Did you have any particular challenges that you faced when it came to MiniDV? I mean, it's not the most forgiving source when it comes to lighting, for example.
Yes, and that was one of the challenges. Yeah, we didn't light the movie at all, really. So what you see is kind of what we got, and so there are certainly some shots that even the camera itself, I think, has some kind of like auto exposure things that it just kind of compensates for. And when there are some characters who stand in front of a window, for example, and when there's a lot of light coming in, you can't really see that character. Or if it's very dark outside, you can't necessarily see everything. But those are things that I guess we just try to roll with it and hope that people would be forgiving for those kinds of what might be considered setbacks.
Were there things that you felt that you needed to change because of the limitations of the camera? Or did you just, with everything, just go ahead, this is the way it was written, this is the way we're going to shoot it? I mean, how much of the script made it to the final screen?
I think that it might even be the opposite a little bit, where if we had a bigger, nicer camera and had a set of lights, we might have had a more difficult time getting everything how it was envisioned, because you then have to spend so much time setting everything up. And also you typically can only shoot one way, and then you have to reset to shoot another way. But with MiniDV and without any lights, we can just kind of move the camera as we feel when we want. And so it allowed for us to shoot what we wanted from the script and put it on the screen, but also to improvise in the moment. And as we felt, just go along with whatever seemed like the right move to make.
Natalie, let's bring you into this as well. You worked as the production designer on this film, is that correct? Did you find working with the, knowing that it was going to be shot on MiniDV, did you find that to be limiting, challenging, invigorating? Did that really like touch your creative bent with things?
I mean, I don't think I really felt the magic of it until it all came together. And a lot of my concern was like staying within the budget and kind of using what we had. And I think that was like the most fun that I had, was kind of just what Justin just said, kind of bringing everything together as we could and improvising and being happy with just like being in a room making a movie with our friends.
So now you were able to improvise when it came to shooting and when it came to the production design. Did you also improvise, or should I say, did the actors also improvise anything on their parts as well? Or was that all just totally to the script?
I think there was certainly some improvising that, in fact, I think a lot of the really best and funniest lines normally just came from people in the moment when they were responding to things. So there was a lot of room for that. But we also did a lot of rehearsing for several scenes. So those were pretty well figured out beforehand. So we had a good amount, I think, of both. And we didn't feel like we never felt like we had to stick to the script, or that we necessarily didn't know how to work doing something either.
That's the benefit of you being the writer and the director, is you can sit there and say, no, I don't have to. I'm not married to those words. If you have a better take on it, then let's try that. Let's give that a shot and see what happens. Which element do you really feel that you spent the most, paid the most attention to? Was it the script, or the directing, the cast, the camera, the lighting, the editing? Which element did you really focus on, or did that vary depending on where you were in the process?
I think it varied. I think as we went along, everything kind of took on the major focus. So we had, for example, I put a lot of time and effort into the script writing. And then after that, it very much became about casting. And I think we put a lot of time into figuring out who was going to be playing each role. And very glad with the cast that we got, including Ryan, who's a superb actor and a superb producer. And then we also spent a lot of time focusing on the production design of everything. And Natalie and I spent a lot of time together, and, she would make these incredible kind of spreadsheets and get these fantastic like props and everything to make sure that we were totally prepared. And so I would work with her on that. And then lighting, we never really spent that much time on, but for sure, shooting and framing was very important to us. And I was normally the one a good amount of times with the camera, but we also all, even Natalie and Ryan, took the camera sometimes, and other people too, especially when we had 2 cameras. And everyone, I think, put a lot of effort into their tasks, and people usually had to wear multiple hats at the same time.
Yeah, we put a lot of attention towards the craft services table as well.
Yes, absolutely.
You keep the crew well fed, they're happy. Keep them working that way. For each of you, what do you consider to be the most, I'm going to ask both questions, both the most challenging and the most gratifying aspect of this particular journey? Natalie, I'm starting with you.
Oh, the most challenging. I mean, I think that collaboration always comes with where you kind of are in this concentrated space of trying to express your artistry, but also make the director happy. And I think that this is something that this is like a muscle that you have to practice with every project. And I think that wasn't the most, I mean, it was the most challenging for me to kind of find my own space and expression in it. But the most gratifying was the feeling after, when you see it all come together and you're like, wow, that was great. Like, that process maybe was painful and difficult, but we're here and it finished and it looks great and everybody's happy and we did something together.
None of us had made a feature film before. We had made short films and other sorts of things. And so to kind of figure out how to approach shooting something of this length, there's just so much more to kind of keep track of. Justin mentioned the spreadsheets that Natalie was making. I mean, when you have 10 days and you're shooting scenes out of order, like even keeping track of just like, what, outfit, and it's just hard to keep a whole movie of that length in your head in terms of how it's all going to come together. And so that was probably like the biggest learning curve for all of us. And we just kind of, to some degree, like figured it out as we were going through it. And at the same time, we were working with people that some of the cast were, we didn't know them necessarily. They were people that we had reached out to. And so that was a little nerve-wracking as well, in terms of like, because we were just making this movie on this little, camera that most people associate like with something their friend had in 6th grade or something. There was like a curve of like, are these people all going to think that we have no idea what we're doing? And also a little bit, we don't know what we're doing. So, all of that was kind of challenging to juggle. But then the most gratifying thing was once, we were in the flow of it. I mean, I love looking at the movie. I mean, it was so gratifying to watch everyone's different kind of contributions kind of, add up to something, and the space that kind of Justin opened up by creating the film, having all these different people's essence, for like a lack of a better word, like kind of pour into it, whether that's the cast just coming in and bringing themselves or all of Natalie's work, whether it's through, I mean, some of the wardrobe in the movie is amazing. I mean, I think all of like Isadora's like looks in the movie are just like incredible. Or our friend Alex Hansen from LA was like sending in these drawings that were the stuff that was Lisa was drawing for the movie. So all these kind of different contributions from kind of all over. It was just kind of amazing to see that kind of get crafted together into kind of one piece.
Justin, what about you?
I think the most challenging for me would be that not only was this kind of our first time at least my first time really doing a feature film, but also I had never really experienced a feature or any kind of film in this manner with the MiniDV and then the lack of other equipment and everything. So when we shot, because there was really we had a minimal crew and there's no setup time. Normally in a movie, you take all this time to set up all the equipment, set up the lights and change out the lenses and everything. And we didn't have that. So it was simply just me as a director and the crew and the cast. And I just decided what we did and when. There was no oh, here's an hour of downtime as people set up so I can go and discuss something while everyone else is doing something else. It's just kind of like we would, stand in a room and then we'd block out a scene and I say action and then say cut. And then it's like, all right, now we're all ready to go again, essentially. Are we going to go again, or are we going to move on, or do I give direction now? And so kind of having to act on my feet pretty quickly in that sense was something that was new to me. And I kind of had to get used to and learn how to collect my thoughts and also watch the scene sometimes while also holding the frame, while operating the camera, and being able to manage everything that was happening at the same time. And that was definitely tricky, but it was also exhilarating and a lot of fun. And I feel like as it went on, I got stronger at that. And the most gratifying, I think it's as to what Natalie and Ryan were both saying, where, I mean, honestly, this idea, it seemed and still kind of seems kind of crazy at the start to make a movie in this way, and then to ask people to want to do this, this very cheap thing for no money, shot on a MiniDV that is likely, at the time seemed like the goal was probably just to, put it online for free and hope that people watch it that way, that people would not only agree to be in the project in the film, but many of them were enthusiastic about it and very excited and, just wanting to be part of something that was creative and seemed like it had more of a pure motive to be made. And everyone gave it their all, even Ryan took on both producing and acting in it, taking on a big role in it. And we filmed Lisa, the main character, her bedroom was Natalie's actual bedroom. So she moved out of her bedroom for the movie to go into, we had another bedroom that was empty that she took over, but that we also filmed in there sometimes. So everyone certainly sacrificed a lot for the film, and that I'm just so incredibly grateful and satisfied. And everyone took off time from work or whatever to be part of the movie. And I hope that they feel that their efforts were worth it and paid off. And yeah, that was the most gratifying, and I'm very grateful for that.
Now, you guys were both talking about reaching out to people. It's not as though everyone who was involved with the movie were personal friends of yours. Is that correct? That you were reaching out to actors and actresses that perhaps you didn't already know?
Yeah, several people we did know we went to college with, including Isadora, who played Lisa, the main character, but Kelly, who plays Holly, we didn't know, or Colin, who plays Doug, or Michael, who plays Bill. But we reached out to these people, and they all were very quick to respond and to join in. And I think with all of them, we've become much closer friends. And it seemed to be a very positive and kind of I don't know what the word is, but we all bonded, I think, and became closer.
Well, what do you think that was about the project that had people saying yes to you and saying that, yes, they wanted to be involved in this?
I think first and foremost, Ryan, you go. No, I talked a lot. Ryan, you go.
Maybe I have a different reason than you.
Yeah, but Ryan, I feel like has answered this question before at times, and he's always got a answer at it.
Oh, no, see, that's setting expectations too high.
The bar is up here now, Ryan.
Yeah, well, all I was going to say was that I think part of, being in Brooklyn, and, we shot this movie 3 or 4 months before COVID, that there is this environment, like most, no, I shouldn't say most, there's a lot of people who are here because they're kind of wanting someone to ask them to be a part of something, creative. And so, we obviously not everybody, but we asked the right people who were looking for something like this in their lives, an experience, an outlet, what have you. And I think that's part of it. And then I think, people just responded to what Justin had written. And, we heard a lot when Justin was first kind of asking people and showing the script to people, people would go, oh yeah, this is kind of like exactly like what my first year here was like. No one's going to mistake the movie for the most like, obviously the most like professional possible product put together. But I do think that the movie's very, sincere, and it was made for really, honest, reasons. And everyone showed up with that kind of sincerity, and that really produced both an experience and a film that I think is, really, really great. And so it was just a reminder to approach things with that mentality for me.
Justin, is the film for you, do you look at it being more of a calling card, showing people what you can do, or was it an expression of what was inside of you that you just simply had to get out? And there is no wrong answer. Could be both, could be neither.
I think it's mostly the second one, and I think Ryan kind of spoke to this a little bit earlier too, where when we started out with the idea for the film, we knew that a lot of people make features, especially their first features or even really nice shorts, to be a calling card and be like, see, this is what I can do. And I really wanted to kind of go in the opposite direction with it, with the film, and be like, this is not, a calling card, and it's not meant to get into festivals or to show off something. It's more like I just want to make a movie. I have an idea and I have this desire in me to get out and something to express. And that's all that this movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to be me and my friends getting together with a MiniDV camera and just shooting something and trying our best to have fun, to be present, and to make what we consider art. And that is, to me, the art. The art was the finished product that people see, but also the act of making that art, and the pleasure is in the process. And that's what I want. And that's the most thrilling part about filmmaking. And it's something that I was chasing and I got a little bit of, and I'll keep chasing, is to keep doing that and living in that world. And so that's what I'm hoping to do and continue to doing. And we'll see. I don't know how, with that mentality, successful one can be in the career of film, but certainly it is a satisfying feeling that I'm willing to try right now.
How long was the process for you when it came to putting this together, as far as beforehand, when it came to writing it and even coming up with the idea to begin with? How long has this been something that's been on your plate?
The process of getting the film made, I think it could be considered relatively quick. It started, I had moved from Los Angeles to New York at the start of like February 2019. And then soon after that, I had this really strong desire just to make a movie. And then I started watching all of these mumblecore movies, and especially the film Exit by Nathan Silver, which I really loved. And that was a movie about a girl who moves in with this like retired couple. And I, at the time, was living with a couple that they were only a few years older than me, but they were very interesting. They had a very interesting dynamic. And I started to realize that I was in a environment that could be very good for some kind of film. So I immediately started thinking, and while I was watching these kind of lo-fi movies, I became more and more inspired. And then by March, I already had a script, but I don't think Ryan was the first person I showed anything to, and that wasn't until like the summer, because I was so nervous and self-conscious about it. But in the summer, I was like, yeah, you think that we could make this into a thing? And he was like, yeah, I guess so. And so that was the start of it. And that was in the summer. By like Natalie came on soon after that and was starting on it, and we were casting it by September, October, and then November we were shooting. And then the pandemic hit, and while the pandemic was not a fun time, it is a perfect time to edit because you're not allowed to do anything else. So the pandemic movie probably would have taken, it took almost the whole year of 2020 to edit, I guess. But if there was no pandemic, it would probably taken twice as long or longer, just because I had other plans in my life. But my plan was editing then.
Especially with all those computer problems.
Yeah, especially with I had many
Yes.
computer.
Tell us, I heard we were talking beforehand about you had a couple little technical glitches there, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, I'm not the most editing is one of the many hats I wore, but it was one of the ones I wasn't used to wearing, I guess. And when it came to editing the film, I had saved my files in such a way where every day when I opened up my editing file, I saved a new file, therefore making this gigantic file after about 10 months of every single day having a full-length movie. And eventually my computer crashed and I couldn't open.
Yeah, you said Justin's editing this whole movie on like this old tiny little like MacBook.
Yeah. And I had called Adobe because they had they run Premiere, which is the editing software I use. And they said, there's nothing we can do for you. You just have to get a computer with more RAM. And I was like, well, I'm not going to buy a nicer computer. That's double the budget of the movie. So I was like, forget that. I'm going to figure out another way to do it. And sorry, I started doing some research, and I was like, how can I get a new computer without paying for a new computer? And there are all these big box stores that have these insane return policies where you can buy a new computer and then just return it after you use it. So there's this great mall shopping center in downtown Brooklyn where I went to Best Buy and I was like, can you show me your nicest MacBook? So they're like, here's our, $4,000 new M1 chip MacBook. And I was like, great. Just by the way, is this returnable? They were like, yeah, 15 days you get, and then you can return it. I was like, if I use it? And they were like, yeah, you can use it all you want as long as you don't break it. And they were like, do you want Apple Care? And I was like, can I return Apple Care? And they were like, yeah, you can return Apple Care. So I was like, okay. So I got that. They gave me a mouse. They gave me all these little dongle wire things. So I bought that, and I was like, I could edit. Great. So, and then 2 weeks later, I wasn't done. So I went back and I gave them it, and they're like, what was wrong? And I was like, oh, it just, my boss wanted me to have a different computer, I guess. And then I'd go next door to the Apple store, and I'd be like, can I buy a new computer? And then 2 weeks later, I'd bring that back.
And how many times in a row did you go through the whole process?
I think I went to Best Buy about 8 times. And the thing is,
they have your picture up in the back now, with that circle and the line through it saying,
well, I use my Best Buy. Every time they ask you for your Best Buy ID if you want to give it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll give it to you. And that probably wasn't smart, but no one checked. I mean, I had a mask on the whole time, so maybe no one would have recognized me anyway. I don't think that they really cared that much, but it was always a little scary. It was like, is this the day I get caught? But no, and I'm still on that computer today. It works great.
Best Buy has changed their policy since then.
But otherwise, probably I cost them probably a good amount of money over that. So thank you, Best Buy.
You guys each wore, you said, multiple hats during this process. Is there a hat that you wore that's the one that you were most comfortable in, or the one that you want to continue wearing? And conversely, one that's just like, no, if I can go ahead and farm this out to somebody else, I'm happy to do it.
It's easier. If Justin was making another movie in the same way that he made this movie, I would wear almost any hat to be a part of it. I don't know if I could say that in every context. For example, producing this movie was much less complicated than producing a lot of movies because most of it was in Justin and Natalie's apartment. And you didn't really have to get permission to shoot anywhere because everyone just thought you were tourists with some old camera. So, you know, it would depend. But for a project like this again, I'd wear these hats and more if it was asked of me.
Natalie?
I would wear the same hat. I love designing. I love the meaning that you can give to an outfit, to earrings, to why a frame is moved, and attach that to characters and just expand the story in your own head and your own experience for viewers watching.
Justin?
I think I would have two hats for editing, and someone else would get the other hat for sure. I had help with, we had an additional editor, my friend Byron, who actually also helped us with figuring out how I could finally edit on my own computer again. So that helped me realize that having another person there with you is very helpful. And also maybe not have at the same time the directing hat and the shooting hat, because shooting, operating a camera and watching the frame as well as watching the performances can be very difficult, especially with the MiniDV camera that we had. I realized in the editing process, the little viewfinder that you look through in the camera is slightly tilted.
Oh no.
You're kind of like sometimes without noticing, like tilting the camera to correct it. And there was a lot of what I had shot that needed to be changed, which
a few Dutch angles that shouldn't have been there, not intentional.
But it's all part of the aesthetic, I suppose.
Well, great film. You may not be looking for great success, but I have the feeling that you guys are going to have it. So huge thanks. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to make sure that you get across to people? For example, where they can find out more about the movie, where they can see the movie?
Yeah, people can see the movie right now on the Slamdance channel. I believe that the channel is going to be live up until February 6th. Mm-hmm. So if you're watching this before this, I guess I'd suggest going to check it out. And it's $10 for a pass to the entire festival. You can watch all the films.
A lot of great other movies too.
Yeah, a ton of great other films that are also in the same vein as this film. So I'd highly recommend checking out everything over there. And yeah, that's what I can think of.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be another way to see it if you're hearing this after February 6th.
Yeah.
Do a little research. I'm sure you can, we don't have a concrete plan yet, but I bet there'll be some way to watch it.
I'm sure that there will, because you cannot keep a good man, a good woman, a good film down. The film is Yelling Fire in an Empty Theater. Justin Zuckerman is the writer, director, camera person, editor, just hat of many different colors. Ryan Martin Brown, the producer, actor, Natalie Elizabeth Montoya, production designer, just all around great person who takes care of everybody else to make sure everybody has what they need. Thank you so much for joining us today on Indie Film Nation. And that's it.
Break it free from the mainstream, the studio machine.